I didn't know if I wanted to bring this kind of game to the channel, as it's not something I'd usually cover, but one of the great things about the Platinum Trophy is that it covers every genre. I often find myself leaving my overly content comfort zone playing things I wouldn't give the time of day.
So you gotta get comfortable being uncomfortable if you ever want to be successful.
Having said that, I was also feeling quite nostalgic, which is a great segue into me saying I was on this site called Keymailer, where content creators go to work with, I guess you could say, other content creators, and I stumbled upon this little game called Starlight Legacy. I noticed the game said code pre-approved, so I clicked the button to get the code, and here we are. I mainly wanted to bring this Platinum playthrough because the style of the game instantly reminded me of this software I used to mess around with back in the day when I was a kid. It was called RPG Maker 2003, and I totally realised that I'm showing my age there a little bit.
Oh, I'm too old for this shit.
Anyway, I'm not sure if the dev has ever played Pokemon before, which is another game I grew up with, and the beginning of the game feels very Pokemon inspired. Starting in your bedroom, young protagonist leaves the bedroom, mum greets you, essentially giving you a lecture on maturity and finding your own way in the world, only to send you off to a friend to begin your journey. Yeah, it felt very Pokemon inspired. Anyway, so we leave our house and we go to our friend Terrell's house. We recruit Terrell as our first party member, and this is where the journey begins, I guess you could say. Upon leaving Terrell's house and leaving our hometown, we get our first trophy called First Steps, which is for leaving our hometown called Pinewood. Alright, so before moving on, I want to highlight two collectible based trophies. One is the Bestiary. It's essentially a Pokedex and you need to fill this 100% to get a trophy to pop. And the second one is the Telescopes. There's 9 of them that exist in this game and we have to interact with every single one for another trophy to pop. I did find the Telescope feature to be quite conceptually cool, but with the 16-bit graphics, and I do mean this respectfully, I felt like it was a pointless feature because it didn't look really good visually, if that makes sense, but I honestly do respect it. Moving on with the journey, so we arrive at the very close town called Grenia. The first thing I do out of pure habit is pay a visit to the inn to recover my HP and MP. Then we go to the Spells Merchant. I buy a load of new magic techniques and assign them to my party members. We also do the same with weapons, and I did take a little look at an achievement guide before I started this. It's the only info I could find. I couldn't find any trophy related info, but it's the same thing, and it was heavily recommended to roll with 2 swords throughout the entire game, so that's basically what I did. Now we are kitted out and I decide to venture north, and I approach this Alright, you know what, this is the last time, I hope, that I'm going to make a Pokemon comparison, but it's so difficult not to. This place is basically Viridian Forest, so much so that within the first 2 minutes of me being in this forest, called Eternity Forest, I get out of game nostalgic PTSD and in-game PTSD because I get afflicted with a poison status. And yet again, in traditional Pokemon fashion, out of battle, every step you take ticks your health down by 1. And I kid you not, as you can see on screen, I'm rushing back to the entrance of the forest, just like I did 25 years ago when I first played Pokemon Blue, in a panic because I didn't want my party member to faint. Thankfully, the immature scatterbrain person I once was is no more, and I think it's fair to say that this did show true character development on my end, as I calmly and collectively composed myself to use that antidote. In true anime fashion, this has to be it. This has got to be the feeling that I've been searching for all my life. This is character development! All jokes aside, I can't be the only one who just hoards their entire inventory throughout the entirety of the game with no intention of ever using their items, right? Anyway, moving on to our next trophy, which is missable by the way, so I wanted to get this one out of the way as quickly as possible. We arrive at this place called Evaria Castle, which I guess you could say is like the main hub of the game, and we have to interact with these bookcases that essentially tells the tale of King Leopold's vision to unite the 4 kingdoms. Upon interacting with the third one, it pops the missable Historian trophy. I just want to point out, by the way, for such a short game, this actually had a pretty decent story. I really did get engrossed. And after seeing some more story stuff, which I'm not going to go into too much detail, by the way, as this is strictly a Platinum playthrough, and if you like even an ounce of what you're seeing, I'll always highly encourage and recommend you go and support the devs while also experiencing the game for yourself. Regardless, we use our first bridge pass and head east. And within the first 5 seconds of me leaving the bridge, I get absolutely ambushed. And I kid you not, I've never seen so many enemies on screen in a 16-bit JRPG before. Definitely something to behold. So after the battle concludes, we get our next trophy, which was for defeating 100 enemies. The next trophy was, I guess you could say, a side quest of some sort, and to be fair, there's actually not that many in this game. Each time you hand a side quest in, they usually give you a key item which has massive impact on the story. They didn't feel like tacked on fluff, they were short, sweet and to the point, much like the entire game in general, and they held relevance to the story. My favourite kind of side quests. So we had to rescue this character called Minnie. Yeah, that sounds really weird saying that as a British person. Anyway, after traversing a tunnel or a cave, and we're going to see a lot of them in this game, and you're going to hear me probably mention that line a few times in this video. So we beat this monster called the Ice Fairy, who I thought was like a mini boss, but it's just a bog standard kind of monster. And after beating the Ice Fairy, we set Minnie free from his glacial prison, and then had to escort Minnie back to the quest giver in the town of Hazelfrost, which then popped a trophy for us. We also get the key item Raft, which lets us surf over water to reach locations we couldn't get to before. Reminds me of something, but I said I wasn't going to mention it again. Alright, this is trophy number 5. So after surfing around for a bit and just getting a general lay of the land, we had found another cave, which led to our first relic boss of the game. Mind you, I do recall King Lennox saying that we could use our bridge tokens on any of the bridges. Now I'm not sure if that truly meant we had options, as I just went for the first bridge I saw, but if you can choose, then your first relic boss while playing might not be the same as mine. Anywho, after beating Wintoria and the Ice Mammoth, we get our 5th trophy of the game. So we got 2 trophies that pop very close together now. So after beating Wintorian and getting another bridge token, I decided to head north towards our next Starlight Relic in the region of Lusaria, also known as the Sky region. Upon entering the town of Zenvel and entering the house on the right, an old lady gives us another side quest to retrieve her favourite song that is transcribed on a stone plate because she has forgotten it in her old age apparently. So that's what we do. But while we was progressing with that trophy, traversing through yet again another cave, I did say there'll be many mentions of caves in this video. But yeah, the trophy for defeating a total of 500 enemies randomly popped. And I'll be honest here, I was genuinely quite shocked how quick it was, to be fair, but it felt really good because it was a relief to know that I'd hit the halfway point for the next defeat enemy milestone trophy, which is 1,000, and as I was currently 2 out of 4 for the Starlight Relics, it was relieving to know that I had at least half the game left, which meant, and I guess this was my at the end of the rainbow trophy mindset kicking in here, there was a guarantee there will be no post-game grind. Anyway, Granny and her song, where was we? So we proceed through, again, another cave, reach this tree that is guarding the stone tablet with the song. We get quizzed by this tree, then we get ambushed, and then finally get the song. Now we needed to trek back to Granny, which wasn't too far to be fair, and upon handing her the song and playing it for her, we get not only the trophy for helping her, but also a flute of teleportation. It's basically one of the game's fast travel systems, which makes backtracking less tedious. I say one of because you'll see later. Keeping the pace, next trophy. This time we're not going for a cave, yay, but a castle. And at the end of this castle, we get to fight the boss. I wanted to test something in this fight, by the way. I'd equipped all my characters with this skill called Frenzy, and as you're going to see, it essentially trivializes the entire game. It's basically a multi-hit move that does insane collective damage, so I just spammed that from here on out. Oh, and I also turned off battle animations as well to speed everything up. So we walk over the boss called Lusorian. Yeah, I should have mentioned, I'm not too sure on some of these pronunciations. But needless to say, upon defeating Lusorian, we get our next trophy, Sky Protector. And we also pick up our second Starlight Relic and teleport back to King Lennox's town, Kingdom Capital. So after some more story stuff, which again I'm not going to go into too much detail about, we have 2 more regions left, and I decided to head to the desert region in the west. Shortly after using our bridge token and crossing the bridge into the desert region, we get to a little town called Waterhole, and just beside the inn, we meet this old man who randomly throws another side quest at us. And the game even makes a comment on this, by the way. I have to say, I really do appreciate the devs' humour in this game. I haven't mentioned it till now, but I actually chuckled a few times while playing this entire game. I don't know, I just thought that was worth a mention. Anyway, so this quest is related to another trophy where we have to track down these items called Anarchy rubies, and that's what we're going to do right now. Yeah, right now. So after traipsing through the desert region for surprisingly not that long of a time, and in my experience I feel like this is something I have to mention, usually in JRPG games with these type of collectathon quests, they tend to spread them out over the course of the entire game, but not here. I think this quest took me less than 20 minutes or so to do, which then led to popping the trophy Not So Unlimited Power, which was for collecting all the 7 Anarchy rubies. It's also worth noting that once you return the 7 rubies to the old man and finish his quest, he'll give you a key item called Magic Carpet. It essentially lets you travel at like double the walking speed or something on those lines, and also it lets you travel over terrain that you can't naturally walk over, which is great for us because who doesn't like their trophy hunting journey sped up, am I right? So after blitzing through the entire desert region thanks to our recent Magic Carpet gain, we arrive at this place called the Desert Temple, which is where our 3rd protector boss encounter awaits us. Now I'll be honest, of the 3 or 4 bosses I fought so far that were guarding a Starlight Relic, this boss was the most annoying. It had this really annoying move called Hyper Recovery, which we can also obtain and teach to our characters. But yeah, it essentially lets the boss recover 500 HP on the fly, and it just dragged the fight out longer than what it needed to be. It's nothing too bad, and I might be dramatizing here a little, considering the overall short length of the game. Maybe because I just didn't expect it, but regardless, upon dealing the final blow and getting our 3rd Starlight Relic, we get our 10th trophy for beating this specific boss. Moving on, after getting our final bridge token, which is the last region in this specific playthrough, and it's called the Forest region. This is where our last Protector trophy is, as well as a side quest and our last Starlight relic. But before any of that comes to fruition, while we're en route to the last Protector, traversing yet again another cave, we get our final defeat total enemy trophy, which is for defeating a total of 1,000 enemies. I called it earlier, right? No post-game grinding, yay! I personally could not ask for any better news as a trophy hunter.
That's great news, General. Congratulations.
On the contrary, I mourn.
Okay.
And also, we're still not done. After leaving the cave and crossing through to the next town, we find our 9th and last telescope to pop the Telescope Master trophy. Worth a mention, by the way, we are also now officially at the halfway point of trophy completion, and you can see the 50% on screen right now. Alright, so next up is the Forest region side quest, and we needed to get this material called Reckonite, which apparently I already picked up and had in my inventory because we had to hand it over to this dude who will then use the material to craft us another key item called Rock Hammer. And once we receive this key item and finish the quest, we get our next trophy. And I said I wouldn't mention Pokemon again. Yeah, I lied about that because it's hard to ignore. All these side quests up until now are literally giving us the HM equivalent that exists in the Pokemon games. HM02 Fly, HM03 Surf, HM06 Rock Smash, etc. You get the point. And just to be clear, I'm not mad at this. As a matter of fact, as someone who was with Pokemon since 1999 and admittedly dropped off around the beginning of the Switch era, it's fun on a nostalgic level to see these concepts and mechanics reskinned. It feels like I'm playing Where's Wally, just with Pokemon HM mechanics. And yes, I am British and will not settle for any Wally slander. It's not Waldo or Walter or whatever it's called where you're from. The creator is British and the original name before marketable politics entered the fray is Wally. Get it right. Yeah, get it right.
Where's Wally? Where's Wally? There he is.
Jokes aside, these next two trophies pop one after the other. The first is for beating the last Protector, Evarian of the Forest Temple, and then we also get the Evaria Protector trophy, which is for basically collecting all 4 of the Starlight relics. Jeez, we're wrapping this up quick now. So oddly enough, despite already riding the dragon via the story, we haven't personally gone into our inventory to use the key item Dragon's Ocarina, which is what we needed to do in order to summon the dragon to pop the Dragon Rider trophy. And you see, this is why I said earlier, one of 2 fast travel methods, because this is the final fast travel method, and we're flying. Okay, so next up is an optional location called the Tower of Trials, and to my knowledge, the only way to reach this is with the new fast travel dragon we just acquired. Not only is there a trophy for finishing this tower, but it also contains a chest with the most powerful sword in the game called the Starlight Sword. It's also related to another trophy called Starlight Master, which involves us having to collect these 2 tomes. One of the tomes is in this tower and the other is in the final dungeon. And with the context given, let's quickly beat this tower and pop the Starlight Warrior trophy. And by quickly, I really do mean quickly. I thought something called the Tower of Trials would be a little bit more grandiose, but I think I did it in like less than 15 minutes or so. It was really quick. And again, I'm not mad at that. We keep moving. All right, so this is it, people, the final stretch. This last dungeon is called the Starlight Castle. We're currently sitting on 17 out of 22 trophies, and everything we need to obtain the remaining trophies, and of course that juicy platinum, is in this dungeon. To recap, we need Master.exe, Starlight Master, Saviors of Evaria, and Monster Expert. Let's start with Master.exe. And all we need to do for this is basically beat the 4 different region protector bosses again, only this time they're a variant of their original self, and defeating each boss lights up one segment of a 4-light door. That's what I've chose to call it because I don't know what else to call it. And once all 4 of the lights are lit up, the door will open and we also get the Master.exe trophy. Okay, next up, and I know this might seem quite weird, but this game has an option, as you can see on screen right now, to switch off enemy encounters. And at this point in the game, I had every monster registered in the bestiary except one, and I just assumed it was probably the last boss. And just to give a heads up, this assumption basically shaved off a little bit of time off the platinum, because I did indeed switch off the enemy encounters, and my god, it was heavenly. It made running around looking for the last Starlight tome so much more convenient, which is a great segue, mind you, into our next trophy, Starlight Master. Alright people, this is it, the final boss of the game, and beyond that, our shiny platinum. So we fight the boss, King Linux, and upon beating King Linux, we first get our Monster Expert trophy, which is for fully filling out the bestiary. For crying out loud, what is the pronunciation for this word? Is it bestiary? Is it bestiary? Is it bestiary? I've heard like 3 pronunciations, but you know what? It doesn't matter because we're at the end of the journey now. So with the bestiary out the way, we now get our last trophy, Saviors of Evaria, for basically finishing the story, and of course the platinum trophy, appropriately named Starlight Legacy Master. And there we go, what a short but intricately sweet little game. I had a really good time with this, not just as an overall gameplay experience, but a platinum playthrough as well. It was incredibly simple, and that's exactly what I wanted. I've been getting quite lost in a lot of these live service games, gacha games, basically games that demand a huge chunk of our time as players. It's kind of nice to be reminded that there are games still being made like Starlight Legacy, and I'd just like to say thank you to everyone that stuck around for the entire video, and of course a thank you to the dev/publisher who provided me with a pre-approved code. It was an absolute pleasure. So take care everyone, and I'll catch you in the next platinum playthrough.